Hi, I'm Alec from EasierHabits.com, and I coach working parents in how to design lives of balance, joy, and growth. So today I will be talking about the secret to lifestyle design. This is really the core of what I do, what I think is the most important skill in order to have a sense of confidence that you can meet life's challenges and having a sense of control over your life, that you can design a life that meets your needs. I have a few simple exercises at the end. Very simple stuff, but these are the basic skills that can help you get a sense of control over your own life. So stay tuned and listen for those exercises at the end. Today, I want to talk about the secret of lifestyle design. I was reading in a book called Design Your Life this last week, which is a great book. It is a book about how to approach the big problems in your life, like finding and creating the career you are passionate about, or finding balance between your career and the other needs in your life, and taking those problems and approaching them as if you're a designer, like a visual designer or an industrial designer, someone who goes through, looks at ambiguous problems and frames them in a particular way with research and care. And once framing the problem, tries out multiple approaches, experiments, iterates to find the solution to that initially ambiguous and difficult problem. And I think design thinking is a wonderful thing. I think that is almost a basic skill set in today's complex world. If more people understood how to approach many different problems from a design thinking perspective, I think we would have a lot better solutions to things. However, when they talk about one of the keys to lifestyle design, I think they have it a little bit wrong. I agree mostly with it, but there's kind of a tweak I want to add to what I think is the key, the most important thing in lifestyle design. So one of the things they say is that lifestyle design is not about balance. And by balance, they mean equality. You don't want to put equal effort into all of your tasks, right? Because your needs aren't evenly distributed. It doesn't make sense, or it's not practical to spend as much time with your kids as you do at work, and as much time in your hobbies as you do at work. For most people, that's not reasonable. Like for most people right now, until they design something different, their job is at least 8 or 9 hours at work a day. And obviously you can't still spend that with your family and your hobbies and still sleep. So, the balance in that sense is impossible. But what they say the key is intentional imbalance, i.e. the idea that you recognize where your needs are, what needs more priority, and then aligning your efforts that way, right? And so an example of this in my own life, I have things I struggle with. I am not good at marketing, and I am figuring that out. I am learning a ton. I have a 3-month plan around marketing that takes a good chunk of my day. I do deal with anxiety about this, and I work through all the lifestyle design things around that, about like, what are my options? What can I learn? How can I approach this? What can I try next? But I've just recognized, like, that's one of the needs I have in my professional sphere that I really need to work on and figure out that will allow me to grow the most. And so I'm working on that. There are other areas of my life where kids are very important to me, but I already have a certain amount of time scheduled with them. I have time in the morning, I have time in the evening. I make sure that time is quality, that I do fun things. I read my favorite childhood books to them. We do science experiments, we do active things, we do creative things. When I do play video games with them, I also show them videos about how the video game designers created the music or the art for the video game. And so I feel like we have a pretty rich experience, and I certainly make mistakes. But on the other hand, I feel like since generally the amount of time and the quality of that time, that when I'm with my kids, I'm present, I'm not checking my phone, I'm not doing anything else, they have my full attention. Since I'm happy with that, that doesn't really require me to have a lot of elaborate goals. I just, week to week, figure out like, oh, where's the imbalance? What are my kids struggling with last week? What are we going to do better this week, right? I don't have the full court press of a 3-month plan to address the issues with my kids that I have with my kids, or the obstacles, because you're going to have obstacles in every area of your life. I feel like the rate at which we are discovering and overcoming these obstacles is acceptable for the kids. I feel pretty impatient in the marketing way. I always feel like I'm behind. I feel like there's a lot to do. I feel stressed. So that's an area of my life that I need to continually design to be better. So that's an example of intentional imbalance, and I agree that that is a good thing. In fact, their version of intentional imbalance is my version of balance. For me, balance is not about giving equality to all the tasks equal time. It's about making sure that my needs are met wherever the shape of those needs are. And then as those needs change, intentionally making changes in my approach to meet my needs. And so for me, feeling that generally, doesn't mean my life is perfect, but that generally my needs are met, that for me is balance. But the key to lifestyle design for me is something very different, actually. However, intentional imbalance for me is not the secret to lifestyle design. I have one thing that I've learned actually from meditation for me that is the single most important thing about lifestyle design. One thing a novice meditator might think when they start meditating is that the purpose of meditation is to have a clear mind. And from all I have heard from gurus and people who are more experienced at meditation than me, the clear mind is not actually the objective. What I've heard again and again from people who are much more experienced at me than meditation or the gurus is that the goal is not to have a clear mind the entire time you're meditating. Really, what meditation is about is simply recognizing when your thoughts have run away and then having confidence that you can let go of those thoughts and regularly come back to a clear mind. And it's a very fine distinction. Yes, you are constantly coming back to a clear mind. But what this does is let go of the assumption that good meditation means a clear mind. You can have a very troubled mind. You can be constantly bringing your mind back to, the focus state, whether you're focusing on your breath or a mantra or whatever it is. You can be constantly bringing your mind back. And in a sense, if you recognize that your mind is running away quickly and you come back to your breath, for example, and you do that a lot, that in some ways might be a better practice for meditation than having a much calmer mind where you don't get to practice bringing your thoughts back to your breath. I know the breathing part of that feels better, but over a long term of practice, it is much more helpful and much less stressful on you if you focus on bringing your attention back as opposed to focusing on always having a clear mind. You are going to be upset every time your thoughts run away. If you think meditating is about having a clear mind, you're going to be judgmental of yourself. And then that judgment is going to be a whole nother train of thoughts that starts to run away with you again. And so really this one perspective shift in meditation from having meditation being about some kind of ideal state to being about the process of recognizing less than ideal or unintentional states and bringing them back to the intentional state. So you probably know where I'm headed with this. If meditation is not about having a perfectly clear mind, but the process of clearing one's mind and having confidence that you can do so when you want to, the same holds for a good lifestyle design. It's not about balance or even intentional imbalance. It's about having the confidence to diagnose unmet needs and to be able to meet them. And that confidence doesn't necessarily come from having all the answers. It comes from having a process that you know has helped you meet big, tricky needs in the past, and then knowing that you can go through a similar process with your big obstacles right now, and that even if the first thing you try doesn't work, you can keep trying until you find something that meets your need. And that is the confidence and the joy that comes with a good lifestyle design, right? You're no longer stressed when you hit an obstacle because you don't feel like the obstacle is permanent, or you don't feel crushed by not having the answer immediately. And when you're not hyper-focused on trying to have all the answers, when you trust that you have a process that will work, and you accept that it might take time, it might take longer than you want, you might have to work on your patience, but you'll get there. When you have that attitude, you can enjoy the moment, and the stress of not knowing or having an obstacle in front of you won't eat you up. And that is, again, it's not removing the obstacles from your life, but it is removing all of that extra neuroticism, that extra anxiety, that extra stress that builds up on top of the obstacles and ends up usually feeling a whole lot worse than the actual presence of, some frustration, right? Worse than not getting the promotion is, feeling like you're not being valued and not knowing how you can be valued, not knowing, whether you're doing the right thing, or feeling like you're doing good work and, looking at outside objective measures and saying like, this appears to be good work, then why am I not getting promoted, right? Like that is the frustration. Or, with kids, the frustration that I have when I run into a behavior issue with my kids is much less what this means right now, but I get worried, like, all right, if my kids hit each other, are they going to be violent kids? Are they going to hit other kids at school? What if they keep doing this forever and they don't have friends, right? It's all that extra worry. That's way worse. That's blowing everything out of proportion. It's way worse than the actual obstacle I'm facing. So when I actually have a process I trust to deal with things like that, then I can calm down. I can get over the discomfort that comes from having obstacles or not knowing all the answers, and then I can enjoy the ride a whole lot more. So an example of finding a need and meeting it was over the break, I realized I was really antsy. And instead of just distracting myself from it, like throwing myself into a TV show, in this case, I just took a long bath with nice smelling bath salts, which is a time where I do some of my best thinking. And I realized one of the reasons I was antsy is because I didn't have any regular scheduled activity to look forward to. That doesn't mean I wasn't doing things I really enjoyed. I really enjoy reading with the kids and building circuits with them. We got this crazy little snap circuits kit from one of my brothers, and it's been fantastic. It's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun over the break, not only like playing some video games with them, but then showing them videos about the people who made the art for the video games or designed the music or created the music, recorded the music for the video games. And it was really fun to kind of show them how these things were made. And we had lots of fun times. I had fun personal time where I would draw or read. But I realized one thing that had happened, for example, was that while I look forward to reading a fantasy novel each night, I'd finished one, I think right before the break. And so the whole break, I didn't really have a book that I was into each night. And what that does for me is that is a time I have basically, without really thinking about it, trained my brain to de-stress, right? If I decide ad hoc in the middle of the afternoon during vacation, like, oh, I want to do some drawing time. Okay, guys, go play with your Legos. And I'm gonna draw. It's still fun, but my brain doesn't fully decompress in the same way that if I do a particular activity that I enjoy every evening or at a particular time during the day, my brain immediately knows to relax. And if actually in anticipation of that time, it might start relaxing, right? And so I needed more in my life to look forward to. And I realized this had happened on a number of fronts, just kind of ad hoc. So I happened to have finished my list of to read fantasy novels. I had a game night going on and that fell apart. And so I had every other week something that I was looking forward to in terms of social contact. And it's not like I didn't have social contact over the break. It was just kind of ad hoc. I, visited a little bit with my neighbors and had play dates with kids. But while that is fun to do, again, if you don't have it regularly scheduled, I find I don't get the same kick out of it. And of course, I could watch a movie every night if I wanted, or like a show every night, but I find that shows aren't quality relaxation for me, even if I have regular time to watch them. Usually they distract me from any stress or any mental pressure, and then as soon as I'm done watching it, the pressure's right back. And that's why you can get yourself lost in a series because you never get to a point where you feel like, oh, I'm distressed. I've had enough. Like I've done that with drawing, for example, where I'm like, oh, that was nice to draw for a while and I think I'm good now. You don't have that with a series that ends on a cliffhanger every episode and at the end of a season. So that is an example of recognizing that. And then I started to brainstorm like, all right, what are ways that things I've looked forward to in the past? And that's when I started recognizing, well, it's the fantasy novel at night. It's the game night. I recognize that I do I have fun evenings, fun conversations, or watching a show with my wife. And I do look forward to those things, but because those are highly dependent on our evening schedule or, how tired we are that day, even though I can regularly count on doing that during the week, I don't know exactly when to do that. And so, one of the things I could have done is scheduled more time, and my wife was open to that. But I actually said, I don't think we have to. I just have to find some ways that I can do this in my life. And so, I decided to go with finding a book that I could read nightly before I go to bed and de-stress and go, this is my chill, not think about work time. And my brain, and it's good to have some amount of stress. It's good to have the work time. I'm not complaining about that. I think I mentioned marketing earlier, and marketing is it's good to feel the pressure to like have to learn how to do this and the desire and stress, but it's also good to let that go. And so I after kind of brainstorming all the things I could do, I came up with that. But I also had another interesting idea that I wanted to look forward to. Is one I think my wife and I have talked about, but we never implemented, and it was have regular introspection or relaxation days for ourselves. And so I created a 12-week plan for stuff that I would work on, but I also told my wife, like, all right, when we're done with this 12 weeks, we'll take turns and we'll have a Saturday off. And that could be a Saturday where I just do something relaxing, that I get outside the house, that I maybe, bring my journal, write out my thoughts, be outside, go on bike rides, whatever it is, whatever I want to do to really get away from my problems. And so like I can a little bit each night think about, get some distance and relaxation, but I also know that I can plan a whole day of it, and maybe do things that I couldn't do in just an evening or even like half a day during our regular schedule. So if you want to develop the confidence that you can recognize your unmet needs and meet them, then here's a very simple practice you go through. Now, this may seem basic, right? You might think, oh, I try to meet my unmet needs all the time. Well, chances are, if you're like me, your natural inclination is you kind of recognize a need ad hoc. You don't really dive deeply into it. You don't really clearly define it. And then you just kind of do the first thing that comes to mind in solving that need. This is not lifestyle design. This is, and the reason is because the first things that come to your mind probably just are defaults. The reason the need is unmet in the first place is probably because you've just been living by defaults, accepting the defaults from society or from your family or from your workplace or what have you. And so, you really do have to be intentional about this. It doesn't have to be complicated, but you do have to be intentional about how you recognize unmet needs and you meet them. And so I recommend you can verbalize those unmet needs somehow. So I love to use my very patient wife as kind of like a backboard to bounce ideas off of. And so with a lot of the stuff, I just talked out loud to her. With more personal issues or issues that are a little bit bigger than this, kind of background anxiety I was noticing, I might journal or write something down myself. But if it's just in your head, it's usually not very clear. You want to journal and you want to ask yourself not only, do I feel anxiety, for example? Do I feel more anxious? What does that anxiousness feel like? When have I felt this before? Why am I feeling anxious? What have I done before about that anxiety? And dive into that a little bit more to get a more complete picture. And having to ask yourself those questions or explain them to somebody else in words will help you clarify your understanding of your need. And you might find it's different than your first initial instinct. And the other thing you can do is write down your brainstorm. Or again, if you're a very verbal person, you can talk it out with someone else. But definitely, again, put your ideas into words and then immediately take the first step towards one of your brainstormed actions. You can select one. Now, it might not work, it might not be perfect, but as you go through this process of having a lot of options, one, you feel freer, right? If you just go with the first thing that comes to mind, you haven't brainstormed an activity, you try that out and it fails, well, that was the only thing you thought of, so you feel trapped. But if you brainstorm 10 or 20 potential solutions to what your problem is, then if one of them doesn't work, it's no big deal. You have options, right? That's right there. Immediately, there's some additional confidence that comes in being able to meet your needs because you don't feel as trapped as much. But also, as you do this over time with more and more unmet needs of yours or unmet needs of other people, then you start to realize, hey, I don't know which item in this list is going to work necessarily, but in my experience in the past, either one of these items in the list has worked, or while I was practicing an item in the list, I had the insight I needed to find what worked. And as you go through that, that becomes the confidence. And your lifestyle design becomes not finding some perfect balance, some perfect schedule where every day is bliss, but your lifestyle design becomes the confidence and peace that comes from knowing, yeah, obstacles will come into your life. You can recognize them and respond to them quickly and without any extra or undue stress because you know from the past experience that you have been able to meet those needs before. It's hard at first. Like I said, some confidence can come immediately just in recognizing your options or from understanding your problem clearer. Sometimes half the stress is feeling you have an unmet need, but like not really being able to articulate what it is. So things are much more scary before they're well defined. So like the defining it and setting and seeing that you have a list of options, that will help immediately. But there is a more profound and deeper confidence that will come from working through this process and having that confidence on a regular basis that will change more broadly how you feel about your life and your control over your own life. So there you have it, the secret to lifestyle design. It is simply to recognize your unmet needs and brainstorm how you can solve those, put it in words, talk to somebody else or record it on your phone or write it down, however you do it, articulate it. Ask yourselves questions, be curious, why are you feeling this anxiety? What has worked in the past? What have other people tried? What might be the most fun thing you could do in this situation? Whatever those questions are, don't just do the first thing that comes to mind. Really think through, all right, what does this need? What exactly does it feel like? And how many options can I possibly think of? And if you do that, then you will start to build the confidence that you can respond to any obstacle in your life and you'll feel a whole lot less threatened and you'll be able to enjoy life rather than just waiting to get past the next obstacle. So if this video has been helpful to you, please like and or subscribe so you can get future videos. Comment down below. Have you used this process before? What do you do to recognize your needs? What do you do to brainstorm your list of options? I love to hear your ideas. Please comment down below. And of course, if you know anyone who is trying to rethink their lives or working through New Year's resolution, this is a great time to share this video with your network so that other people can think more clearly about what it means to have a good life and to start to build confidence that they can recognize and respond to the obstacles in their lives in such a way that they can have balance, joy, and growth. Until next week, make big changes, one small habit at a time.